How's it going, guys? It's Mac here with part 4 of this tutorial series on how to build Instagram. Now finally we are going to be working on the iOS app part. Now last video we finished the login script. Now if we look at that right here, we got that login working. If the login is successful, we are going to return the user ID. If it's not successful, status 0, login was unsuccessful. So we're actually going to close this right here. Make sure that you keep your server up and running. So I just minimize this, but make sure that it's running, as we are going to connect to the server as we go along and build this app. So let's actually open Xcode and open our project. Okay, so when you open Xcode, it's going to ask you to install additional requirements. So just going to click install, enter your password, and have Xcode do whatever it has to do. That might take a while. Usually it takes around 2 or 3 minutes, but just going to let it go because, it shouldn't really take that long. But while this is going, I'm going to have you guys actually go to your browser. Let me just minimize this and Google CocoaPods. Just like that. And we're going to install this. So to install this, all you really have to do is go to your terminal. So let's go to our terminal. So you go to the search bar on top, search terminal. Sorry about that. I got hiccups for a second. And if you have a server open, the server is going to open, but just go to the top bar. Let's go to terminal, top bar, and click new window. All right, sweet. Now that we have a new window, all we have to do is copy and paste this one line of code into your terminal, put it right there, press enter, and you should be ready to go with CocoaPods. Now let me explain quickly what CocoaPods is. CocoaPods is basically how you download plugins for your app. We're going to be using a whole bunch of plugins just to make our life easier. And, we don't have to reinvent the wheel if someone already created a plugin for us to connect to a server like Amplify, which we're going to be using a lot, or SwiftlyJSON. It just makes our coding life a lot easier. So we're going to be using it a lot. So once you have that installed, let's get it working. So this is our Xcode program. But what we're going to do first, now that we have CocoaPods installed, is let's actually go to our Xcode project. On video 1, we did create the project already. So let's just cd into it. So I always just rather do it this way. So create projects, instaclone, app, and here is my project. So I'm going to go right here to this folder. So cd, drag and drop this folder here. And awesome, clear ls. Yep, we're inside the folder. And once you have CocoaPods installed, you need to initialize it. So all you have to do is pod init. And if we look inside our folder, it already finished running. But if we look inside our folder, it created a pod file for us. So what we're actually going to do is go inside this pod file and install 2 libraries or plugins that we're actually going to be using in our project. So one of them is Amplify, which allows us to basically do get and post requests, really simple, like 3 lines of code in our application. And the next one is actually SwiftlyJSON, which makes JSON parsing or getting data from JSON extremely easy with a couple lines of code. So what we're going to do is code nano and then pod file. What nano does is basically a text editor inside your terminal. Now you could also open that file in your Sublime if you want to make your life easier. I'm just going to show you both ways quickly. So pod file, and there you go, we're inside it. Now to close this, you do Control X, and there you go. Now to open this on your Sublime, simply right click it, open with, and open with Sublime text editor. And there you go, we get the same results. Now, just because I have this open already on my Sublime, might as well, let's just do it here. So in here, under use frameworks, or actually let's just do it under this comment right here, pods for Instagram clone. Gonna add some spaces, and let's add the 2 CocoaPods that we're gonna be using. So if we go to our web browser, we're gonna go to google.com and we're gonna Google ammo fire, and it should be the first link right here. Now, if we scroll down, they're gonna show you how to use it, but what we're looking for is the installation. So they say install version 4.4. So just copy this right here and let's put it right there. All right, sweet. And the next one that we need is called Swifty JSON. Okay, and same thing, scroll down, they show you how to use it, all that good stuff. But all we really want is the pod. So let's copy that. Okay, we're gonna save the file, so Command S. We can close this now, we're not gonna be going inside that file right now. And let's go to our terminal and just do pod install. Now this is basically gonna look inside your pod file and basically install everything for you. So as it currently says, please close your current Xcode session and use the Instagram clone X workspace. So now when you have CocoaPods installed and you have your pods installed, if we look inside our folder, it creates this pod folder, which basically is gonna hold all those libraries. And because now we have a pod folder, we don't open the Xcode project anymore. We open the Xcode workspace. So we're gonna double click the workspace and have it open. Sweet, we got it to open. Let's close this, minimize this. Now make sure you still have that server open. Remember, I just minimized it, nothing too big. And let's just make this full screen, just so you guys can see more. Sweet. All right, now one of the things that I do like doing at first is organizing everything, but before I organize everything, I just want to make sure that my app is running. So you always want to make sure, because you never know, maybe the plugin could be ruined and you know you're gonna be coding and doing all that stuff and the app won't even run. So I'm just gonna pick an iPhone, so I'm just gonna pick the iPhone 7 and run my app. Could take some time because it needs to build those plugins for the first time. So yeah, you see right here, building ammo fire. So while that's building, doing all that good stuff, let me just explain what this in the bottom, these tabs are. So this is your side menu. This is this side menu where you see your properties, and this is your terminal. We're gonna be using terminal a lot. This is where you're gonna see some of your errors and all that good stuff. So our simulator is loading. Pretty sweet, looks exactly like an iPhone, and it tells you iPhone 7, iOS 11. So I'm just gonna let that run so we can test our app and make sure it's all good. So while that simulator is loading, actually, let me just explain how we're gonna edit this. All right, sweet. So we actually, our app, let me just open the emulator. Okay, so our app loaded. It should just be a white screen because we haven't done anything on it. But this tutorial, we're gonna be doing the login screen. So let me quickly show you guys how to organize everything, and let's just start creating that login screen. So first off, I like to make 3 different folders, and I'll explain why. So it's really good to have like a models where you basically if you open our Laravel project quickly, our models are basically like our user, and we're gonna have another one for, you know, post, and it's basically our tables, but the way that our data is structured. You'll understand it more when we go later on into JSON parsing, but for now, let's just create a models folder. Sweet. And let's create another folder called services, and one called controllers, and another one called views. This is just a good way to organize everything. And you could have one called others, where I usually put my app delegates or other kind of files, like all these other good stuff. But let's also drag and drop our main storyboard into our views and our view controller into that. So it just keeps everything nice and organized so you can find stuff a lot easier. So let's get to designing our login screen. Now, just because this is a really simple app, I'm gonna keep the login screen, you know, nothing too crazy. I mean, I'm sure you guys can design it, you know, any way you guys want to, but let's just, you know, make it pretty simple. So what we're gonna do here is actually, you know, what does the login screen need? So let's just drag in a label real quick. So we type in label. You can just drop and drag it. I'm just gonna put it up here. Make this wide. And we could double click it. I'm gonna put Instagram clone. And if I go to the fourth tab, so this is where you set your classes. If you go to the fourth one, it's your properties. So I want to make this centered, make this bold, and I'm gonna put the font size a little bit higher. And let's just like that. Sweet. Instagram clone. And let's have the user log in. So to log in, we need a username and password, like we mentioned. And to enter username and password, we need text fields. So let's drop and drag those text fields. There we go. We got one of our text fields right here. Let's just copy and paste another one. Sweet. Now you can barely see them, so let's just add a placeholder, which is going to say enter username, enter password. And password is the one where you don't want people to see your password. So it's going to be a secure text field. Make sure you have this box clicked. And sweet, we got that all working. Now, just because you can barely see this, let's just make this look a lot nicer. We'll do that by, you know, let's just add a view real quick. And I'm gonna make this view a different color, like this pinkish color. Just copy this pink color. This is the hex code right here. So if you guys want to copy exactly what I'm doing, I'm gonna put this over this. There we go. So now that it's over it, let's just make this white. Oh, that's gray. We could just click this, go here, and go all the way. So now we have white. Instagram clone, sweet, looks cool. And, you know, put that right there. And the next thing we'll do is add a button to click the login. Now you could design this any way you want. This is just, you know, it's a quick tutorial, so might as well, let's just kind of make it look nice. So text, I'm actually gonna make it white. So white color. Now you can't see it, but I'm gonna edit the background, make it that pinkish. And now we have our Instagram clone. Sweet. Now I'm gonna edit this right here, name this login. Enter password, enter username, login. Now let's just run this. Have our simulator open. And it should automatically run our app. Sweet. So now we have this app successfully running and it looks nice. And you know, we can enter stuff here now. And we have a secure password, we have buttons, but the buttons don't do anything. So let's just get that to do something. So let's get the login actually working now. Now in our service file, quickly, we're gonna create the linking to the server itself. So in here, we're gonna create a new file. It's gonna be a simple Swift file, click next, and I just name it service. Sweet. So in here, we're just going to do class. I always keep my classes uppercase. So class, service, and let's create our first variable. So remember, this is a beginning tutorial, so I'm going to explain everything. Try not to keep this tutorial in a pretty long, so let's try to end it like in 5 minutes. I think we could do this. So a let is basically a constant, a variable that does not change, or you plan on not changing it. So we're gonna actually have a let variable. That's gonna be our URL. So let based URL be, and that's gonna be, so if we go to our browser and go right here, this is our URL that's not changing. And then at the end of it, we'll add the, API stuff, /login and all that good stuff. So our base URL is this right here. And that should be good to go. Now we're gonna add a init, and we're just gonna leave this blank. That basically means we can initialize this class just so we can call it. In here, what we're actually gonna do is do import Swifty.json, import amplifier. So we're importing those two CocoaPods or plugins. And in here, we're going to create our first API call. So it will be login API. So in here, we'll do a function login, and it's going to take a couple parameters. Now this is a post. So if it wasn't a post, we'll just name all the parameters here. Like we'll just do like, I'll explain that when we do a get, but for now, just follow along. So parameters, and parameters is going to be, so when you do this right here, this basically means what kind of variable is parameters. So it's going to be a string and any object. I'll explain this later on. And the next thing is going to have a callback. Yeah, it should be like embed callback. Okay, so we just ran into that one problem. I don't remember what that thing is. So let's, pretty simple. Let's just Swift callback. So remember, I'm gonna actually be showing you everything. So I don't remember something, I'll just Google it real quick, and it should pop up fairly quickly. So just showing you how I program things. Okay, so it's completion, and then we have a callback. So completion, and then we do a callback. So completion, callback. Okay, so let me just copy all this right here. So it's completion, and then you give it a name. So my name is going to be callback, and the actual value of it is going to be JSON. Sweet, that looks all good. All right, so now that we have this, let's just build this. Command B should get an error because we don't have a callback yet. So let's build that amplifier. So now we're going to be using amplifier right now. So amplifier.request, I believe it is. And let's just set this right here. So this tells you what it's going to be, a URL. So let's create a URL let. So URL equals base URL plus whatever string comes after it. So after it's going to be actually API/login. Now let's just confirm that because I don't remember. So let's go to our API, and it's API off/login. So let's actually change that real quick to API off/login. Sweet. So now here, we'll just copy and paste that URL. Method, is it a get or a post? So let's just do dot, and it gives you all these options. It's a post. Parameters, does it use parameters? Now the only ones that use parameters are login or post. So does it use parameters? Yeah, we're actually going to use a couple parameters. So the parameters we're going to use is this parameter variable that we made right here. So we'll just put that in there. Parameters. Is it encoded? So let's first dot. I don't know why it's not displaying that encoded part. Let me just delete headers. And encoded should be displaying a 1 second, guys. parameter encoding. Usually when you click dot, it'll show something, but let's just go to the amplifier page. Yeah, I'd rather not pause it, just so if you guys ever run into a problem, you can see what kind of steps I go to. So I'm going to the documentation now just to see what is that variable. So in here, I'm looking for a get example, a post example. So let's just do that real quick. So post, Google post, and he does method post, Euro encoding default. Oh, so it should actually do encoding default automatically. So that being said, I don't have to include that. And it should be response JSON, because all of our data is always going to be in JSON. And to show a quick example on how to handle that, so let's do response JSON, and they have an example on how to handle that. So let's do response JSON, and this is what I'm looking for. Okay, right here. So let's just copy and paste this right here. Go to our Xcode and delete that response. Now I don't care about this part right here, but I just cared about this one function right here. So we're actually missing one closing brackets. And in here, if the JSON is actually valid, basically that JSON has no errors, we're gonna call it back. So callback or completion, and this would be JSON/JSON. Let's just run this quickly. Okay, got that fixed. And let's get this fixed as well. Sweet. So okay, we can actually delete this else. And this right here, this function is basically going to be handling our login, basically our login API. So let's actually get that set up real quick. Let me explain this real quick before I move on. I know we did a lot of copy and pasting, but it was just, you know, showing you guys how you can go to the documentation and actually find what you're looking for. So in our login function, we're making a variable called URL. So it's going to get the base URL. They'll do an API off login. The reason it's that is because if we go to our API folder, that's what we named the route, if we remember. So in here, we're going to be passing parameters, which is going to be a variable I'm going to show you guys. It's going to be a post, and it's going to, if the response is valid, basically if it is a JSON, send it back. So return it, right? So let's actually start working on this. And let's go here. And we got to give this page a controller. So let's go to our controllers. Let's go to create new file, CocoaPods touch file. And it's going to be a view controller. And I like to keep my name short. So login view controller. Sweet. Keep that in the controllers folder. Sweet. We got it there. Let's go back here. And let's click our view controller right here. Click the third tab, and we're gonna name this login view controller. Now, if we click this tab right here, we can do the linking between. So basically what linking does, actually this video is getting pretty long, so let me just cut this part into two parts. On the next video, which I'm gonna record right now just for you guys, it's basically where we do the linking and get the login working. So I'm just gonna cut the video right now short, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.